Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra. In Kumasi, we are live on Love 99.5 FM in over 30 affiliates dotted across Ghana's 16 regions, including A1 Radio in Bogatanga, ATL FM in Cape Coast, Pad FM in Damangbo, Radio Wa in Wa, Kekeli Radio in Ho. You can go digital on Spotify, Facebook, and myjoyonline.com. In this edition, Clocksack takes on TUC over its stance on the neutrality allowance, accusing it of bad faith.
As a Clocksack, Ghana regrets that due to the recent unfortunate developments on the labor front, we are unable to collaborate with the TUC Ghana in the celebration of this year's Midday. What's wrong with the Apawus?
So what exactly did the TUC say to warrant such a response from Clocksack?
If people have worked and they deserve for you to give them a risk or neutrality or however you want to call it, please, let's go to the substance of the issues and stop putting names to them.
Details of these and more coming up, and also voting rights of a deputy speaker while presiding over parliamentary proceedings remain intact as Supreme Court affirms its March 9 judgment.
It has been our position always that the review application filed by Justice Abdullah is unmeritorious and clearly an abuse of the process of the...
I knew the odds were against me. Indeed, some had predicted 1:100.
Also this afternoon, credible reports of unlawful killings by the government and violence against journalists have been identified as some of the significant issues of human rights in Ghana. We have details of the latest report by the US State Department plus reaction from government. Also, the 2022 edition of the National Science and Maths Quiz off to a great start with nearly 500 schools justifying the inclusion through the regional round of qualifiers. I'll take you around also in sports.
Well, in sports, we do have Prosper Harris Senado, who is the General Secretary of the Ghana Football Association, urging Ghanaians to treat new players well once they are called to the national team.
We have details of that in 20. That's and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa. Apawu. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Many thanks for choosing us. Let's start off from the Labour front this afternoon because the Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana, Clocksack, says its demand for neutrality allowance is appropriate and justified, insisting it will continue to strike until government fully commits to paying the money. Clocksack laid down their tools on Thursday, April 21, following the inability of government to pay the allowance as agreed in January. The neutrality allowance is to ensure that civil and local government workers do not engage in partisanship or partisan politics for that matter while conducting their affairs when they are in their various offices. Head of the Local Government Service, Dr. Nana Ato-Afa, told Joy News members of the Civil and Local Government Service Staff Association have agreed to call off their strike and return to work.
The percentage increase, but we are not going to go with that nomenclature. So go back, let's sit down, look at how we're going to christen it, but we are committed to give you civil service staff, local government service staff, that allowance. That was the first thing that we agreed upon. Number two, that allowance was going to be implemented effective February. We cannot. We are pleading with you. Understand the situation that we are in today, and that we're going to start at the last quarter.
That's Nana Ato-Afa there. But the union at a news conference a while ago said the strike is still on and will only be called off when government is firm on its promise to pay them. We hear Clocksack shortly on the affirmation of the strike still underway. But my colleague Kwesi Parker-Wilson is at that news conference for us. He joins me from that press conference with more details on this. So, Parker, tell us exactly what the situation is. We know that government has also been meeting. Are they saying the meetings are not yielding any results?
Well, according to Clocksack, their neutrality allowance is part of a number of allowances that they've been talking about. They have superior negotiation skills, and they went to the negotiation table with government and have negotiated. And so if you do not understand, you just have to back down on what you are doing. All the individuals protesting against them, they think it's unfair, if you also want to go and negotiate your allowances, you can equally do so. We can listen to the Clocksack director.
We'll get to hear from
Clocksack.
Clocksack.
The government team was led by the master strategist of the government, Honorable Osafo Maf. We have Finance Ministry there represented by Abina, the Deputy Minister of Finance. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission were there. They brought 2 lawyers. Employment was there. Now, so if you people are saying that we have outwitted and played a fast one on them, it's negotiation. Then we should be congratulated for doing a good job. And mind you, this neutrality allowance is only a minute part of our broader conditions of service. There are more goodies that we've already finished about 80%. It's signed and sealed. So if you don't understand what, go and sleep. Go and sleep. Or go to court. The National Labour Commission has directed, that's by tomorrow, 27th April, the financial come out with a payment plan for our neutrality allowance. So that's what we're waiting for. So tomorrow we're all going to the National Labour Commission. So we hope they have that plan. So for them, the strike is still on. It's on, live.
So that's Isaac Bampuado on the strike still being on. Paka, now let's talk about the bad faith they're accusing the Trade Union Congress of. What exactly is their concern? They're saying they will not march alongside them on Sunday?
And Emefa, you recall that somewhere in March 1, the Trade Union Congress met with government to sign some agreement. And as part of the agreement, we are told by Clocksack that TUC agreed that because, we are not in normal times and there are some economic hardship, they need not to increase their salaries and their allowances. And this document was actually signed at the blind side of Clocksack. And that is why they are accusing TUC of bad faith and indicating that they are poisonous in their own words and does not want to work with the Trade Union Congress in anything that they do.
The civil and local government staff of Clocksack, Ghana, regrets that due to the recent unfortunate developments on the labor front, we are unable to collaborate with the TUC Ghana in the celebration of this year's Midday. The association will independently organize activities in all the 16 regions of the country, not the 10 regions, in commemoration of this important landmark in the annals of workers' struggle. What's wrong with they are poisonous? That's why we don't want to associate ourselves with them again. They are poisonous. We don't want them to contaminate us. No. You, TUC, you've gone and signed a declaration that Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and Minister of Finance should determine the quantum. And then you go and do a press conference giving conditionalities. Why do you tell all of us that we're going to sign a declaration? And in your declaration, you didn't give any conditionalities. They are throwing dust into our eyes.
Secretary General of Clocksack there, Isaac Bampuado, at a press conference a while ago. Well, in a related development, the Trade Union Congress says it will demand same neutrality and other risk allowances for its members if the Clocksack demand is met by government. Here's Public Relations Officer of the Union, Na Ayele Adefio.
The reference was made of GBC, for instance, radiation allowance. And then I have worked in GBC before, so I know about night and risk allowances. You have people working the whole night through and moving out of work or onto the job or into the office or into the studios at night when everybody is asleep. If you didn't give them night allowance, or they were working with machines, or they were working with transmitters, etc., that we know has high levels of radiation. If you didn't give them that, what would you give them? And so we need to look at the specifics, and then we can ascribe whatever compensation there is to it. I mean, we have had situations where workers, for instance, are taken for granted, and it gets to a point that you as an ordinary worker say to yourself, no more of this.
Meanwhile, the Executive Director for the Institute of Democratic Governance, IDEC, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, has attributed the falling standards of professionalism in the civil sector to the heavy politicization there. We'll hear from Dr. Emmanuel Akwete. But let me take you to the court now, and the Deputy Speaker of Parliament can vote while presiding and be counted as part of a quorum for decision-making. Well, this remains the law in Ghana. The Supreme Court today ruled that it has not been convinced to depart from this position it took on March 9. We'll get details of that shortly, but let's hear from Dr. Akwete.
I have friends who are civil servants who sometimes will tell you, not everybody. I think when the politicians come initially, this person is removed. Initially, it used to be top civil servants, chief directors. And then it started going below chief directors and all that. And I think it tends to create a certain atmosphere of insecurity. And also, it discourages people.
That's the Executive Director for the Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEC, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete. And I was telling you that voting rights of a Deputy Speaker while presiding over parliamentary proceedings remains intact, as the Supreme Court today affirmed its March 9 judgment. Private legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi, who filed the matter, headed back to the Supreme Court insisting the judges got it wrong. Well, the judges disagree, and court correspondent Joseph Okable was there for us. He joins us in studio with details. Let's talk about the arguments in court and the decision, Joseph.
And so, as far as Justice Abdullahi is concerned, the Supreme Court failed to look at legislative antecedents in Ghana on the original vote of a deputy speaker. He also said the ordinary bench did not consider portions of Ghana's constitution. Deputy Attorney General Diana Sunabadapa disagreed. She took the view that a review is not an appeal, and so if you are filing for a review, it means that you've discovered something that was not initially available to you that you are urging the court to consider. And so she said that a review should be dismissed.
Probably one of the most difficult things to succeed in at the Supreme Court. And so I knew the odds were against me. Indeed, some had predicted 1:100. I had predicted almost 0, except that I still moved forward with this because, in principle, as I said, I believe that the Supreme Court is made of seasoned lawyers, and if you make strong arguments before them, they were amenable to reviewing their decisions, their previous decisions. As it turns out, they decided otherwise. And once they've decided otherwise, I think we have to move on as a nation. What I didn't want was a situation where posterity would question us as to why we didn't take this small window of opportunity that was available to us to attempt a review for a possible review of the decision of the Supreme Court on the 9th of March. And so once they've decided this way, I think posterity will judge us all in a positive light, considering that we did everything that we ought to have done to get the sort of judgment that we needed. But this is what the Supreme Court says. And
So that's Justice Abdullahi's reaction to the court's decision today. You were telling us about the Deputy AG and their reaction as well?
I mean, she said she's not surprised because as far as the AG's department was concerned, this review should not have been filed in the first place.
Definitely satisfied. It has been our position always that the review application filed by Justice Abdullahi is unmeritorious and clearly an abuse of the process of the court. So yes, I am satisfied with the ruling of this honorable court.
I mean, from the process that he filed, I mean, do you think that had he marshaled those arguments in the initial matter, that could have perhaps, I mean, because the review window certainly is a smaller window.
Definitely. So as you heard the honorable court hold, the review application is very strict and the grounds clearly stated, and one needs to find his case within the threshold set for a review application, that exceptional circumstances which has occasioned a grave miscarriage of justice, and there are new information that has been discovered which was not present at it. I do not think even without
So that's the Deputy AG, Diana Asunabadapa. So, Joseph, what does this mean, this latest decision from the Supreme Court?
In terms of Ghana's mechanisms for challenging such matters, this is the end of the road on this particular issue.
Okay, thank you very much. That's our court correspondent, Joseph Akable. Now, reports of arbitrary killings, cases of cruel treatment, violence against journalists, sometimes by government or its agents, have been highlighted as significant human rights issues in Ghana. Now, this is according to the latest country report on human rights practices released by the United States Department of State. The report, which also stated that government took steps to address some of these reported abuses by its officials, however, concluded impunity remains a problem. Head of our research desk, Raymond Akwa, joins me in studio with details from this report. Raymond, first run us through the incidents of unlawful killings the report is talking about.
The report states that on June 26, unidentified perpetrators beat Fix the Country movement supporter and social activist Ibrahim Kaka Mohammed in Ajra. And on June 29, 2021, during protests in the wake of his death, security forces shot and killed 2 other persons. It also states that during the 2020 election period, authorities, media, and observers reported as many as 8 killings, with at least 2 being killed by the National Elections Security Task Force, composed of military and police units, and at least 2 deaths were from civilian violence.
Okay. Well, the report also mentions corruption. Are there any examples cited to back it?
Now, the report states that on June 26, unidentified perpetrators... Now, of course, this is corruption, right? Now, the report indicates that there were isolated attacks on journalists by members of the security forces. Specifically, there was a reference to what has happened when it comes to impunity by government officials. The specific incident of corruption here is specific government officials having to do with... a June report by the Auditor General revealing widespread corruption and waste of public funds, which remain pervasive. It says the Honorary Consul General and the Ghanaian Consulate in Washington, D.C. could not account for visa fees totaling $355,000. The Free SHS Secretariat misspent more than $3.16 million. And this is a June report by the Auditor General's report revealing widespread corruption. A former Minister of Tourism retained 3 official vehicles for personal use after leaving office. The report concluded that the corrupt practices resulted in some $340 million of financial mismanagement, including misapplication and misappropriation of funds. This is all quoting the Auditor General's report, which the U.S. report is saying is the incidence of corruption in the country.
Okay, so you've highlighted the killings in Nigeria and 2020 elections, also on corruption, but it also highlights issues of violence and threat of violence against journalists. What exactly do they mean by that?
The report indicates that there were isolated attacks on journalists by members of the security forces, as well as by unknown assailants and occasional threats and intimidation. The reference here is to April 2021, authorities' arrest of online news editor David Tamaklo. It also mentions the National Security Officer's detention of City FM journalist Caleb Kuda, and adds that on July 9th, a Central Member of Parliament, Kennedy Ohene Japan, called for Erastus Asaridonko to be beaten and whipped during a live television interview. So these are the isolated incidents it mentions as indicating the deterioration in the space of media freedoms.
And does it highlight what exactly the actions were taken by government were?
It says that largely government dealt with most of these reports by its officials, but concluded impunity remains a big challenge to the current situation.
Okay, definitely this report will be digging deeper into it subsequently. Now, the upsurge in the price of liquefied petroleum gas has led to an increase in demand for charcoal as an alternative for cooking. The continuous campaign against deforestation and the free distribution of gas cylinders reduce the preference for charcoal as a source of cooking fuel in households. Prince Apia, however, reports people are returning to the use of charcoal and wood fuel.
Madam Gifty is about to cook. She is opting to use charcoal because she can't afford to fill her gas cylinder. According to her, a bag of charcoal is cheaper and lasts longer than the gas.
So the bidena na ko say gassy. You see our way. We for filling see how when you 1.6 1.7 na. What even filling? Bidena so dey meto
The gas is too expensive. Now you have to pay 160 or 70 cedis, and it doesn't last.
gas no be maya. Here, no the aduane so they say no wide intiminto.
The rise and instability in the prices of LPG is a worry to consumers.
Gas
My gas is finished, so I have to use the charcoal.
The Forestry Commission says the surge in the demand for charcoal is a clear depletion of the vegetation cover. Augustine Kofi Jedu is the Ashanti Regional Manager.
Those who are illegally burning charcoal here and there, we want to caution them that it's not every tree that is supposed to be cut to burn charcoal. Yes, so they need to obtain permit from the nearest forest office before they do that. A lot of families, households have turned to charcoal production, and that one is also affecting the environment.
So in 2015, government distributed 50,000 free cylinders to rural communities in Ghana. It was part of government policy to increase access to LPG in these areas. But the rising cost of LPG in recent times is affecting the demand.
A bag of charcoal used to be 30 cedis, but it's now 40 cedis. So we also sell the bag at 45 cedis. Due to the price increase, we no longer sell it at 1 cedis.
According to the Forestry Commission, people are cutting down trees that are not meant for charcoal. To safeguard the forest, the Commission is distributing plants that can be used for commercial charcoal production.
So what Forestry Commission is doing now is to levy those trucks that carry charcoal. We have checkpoints at various locations, and we charge 80 pesos per mini bag of charcoal. So we count the number of bags in the truck, and then you pay something to the state. Apart from that, Forestry Commission mobilize those monies, and then they give it to us to raise nurseries. So as we talk now here in the Ashanti region, we have such nurseries that we supply free seedlings to people to plant to protect the environment.
Prince up here with that report here on the Midday News live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra, ATL FM in Cape Coast. We're also live on Spotify, Facebook and myjoyonline.com app. Stories we've been looking at: Clocksag has been taking on the TUC over its stance on the neutrality allowance, accusing it of bad faith. They've also vowed to distance itself from the TUC during the Midday celebrations on Sunday. Voting rights of its deputy speaker while presiding over parliamentary proceedings remain intact as Supreme Court affirms its March 9 judgment. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, we have sports, and then the 2022 edition of the National Science and Maths Quiz off to a great start, with nearly 500 schools justifying the inclusion through the regional round of qualifiers.
Okay. So once this year we have chosen to prepare for the NSMQ, obviously we must be able to take the championship, both at the regional stage and at the national stage. So setting targets and achieving them are our goal this year.
Many thanks for choosing us. Indeed, we are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. It's time for sports. Very comfortable. What do we have?
Well, in sports, our Joy Sports team understands negotiations with the coaches are positive and an agreement would be finalized soon in terms of the Black Stars. The GFA is still pushing for the deal to be completed for the whole technical crew to have ample time to prepare for the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, which commences on May 30th, which includes the selection of players as well. Otoado included 3 new players in the initial call-up for the Nigeria clash couple of last month, but GFA General Secretary Prosper Harrison Addo urges Ghanaians to avoid criticizing the players once they are invited for the Black Stars.
Anytime they see a player with the national team, the player has something. We should just exercise patience for them. I know with team building and everything, there are players who come and may not gel and may not play well with the national team and may fall off. But let's give them, let's embrace them as Ghanaians. It's one of the things I learned. When you are with the team, you feel it, you learn it, that sometimes the criticisms and the way it is put. Seriously, if you tell a player that, he did not play the goal kick well or the corner well, they are not offended. But when you veer into personal stuff, it gets to them, and they feel sometimes to the point that they feel un-Ghanaian. They ask themselves, what is it with me that my whole country does not embrace me? Because they feel they have come to also exhibit what they know best and to help the country.
Well, that's how we wrap up the sport here.
Thank you very much, Oreko. Sound of that tells you it's time for the National Science and Maths Quiz. And after exciting 2021 edition, the competition is back again with 499 schools facing off in the regional rounds of qualifiers to seal a spot at the national level. This is the beginning of what will eventually decide who the next winners will be after Prempeh College. Already, 7 schools from the Bono and Western regions have booked their places in the national competition. This is after St. James Minor Seminary has cut its opponents to size by scoring 53 points, the highest so far across the country. They say they are fired up for a great show this year.
Whatever we prepare for, we achieve. So once this year we have chosen to prepare for the NSMQ, obviously we must be able to take the championship, both at the regional stage and at the national stage. So setting targets and achieving them are our goal this year. And this year, though we haven't been able to take this particular one, as we are moving forward, we'll be able to do more.
And already you are making huge promises. This year you are taking the regional championship.
Yes.
Last year in Kranza SHTS, stunned you guys, and Susek eventually took it. This year, that's going to be different?
Oh, surprises are always inevitable. But this year we are going to make calculated plans to make sure that whatever is thrown at us, we would have a counter plan too.
Students from the St. James Minor Seminary there. My colleague Manuel Kranting is in Sunyang after returning from Dubai. He's been following the competition and joins us live with details on this. Manuel, so we know that St. James Minor Seminary has qualified. Which are the other 6 schools?
Yeah, so Emefa, we have Sunyani SHS, we have Global SHS, Notre Dame, and then Brekum SHS. Yeah, in the Western Region, Secondary College, Adiambra SHS, and Archbishop Porter Girls, which indeed was last year's regional champions in the Western zone, have also qualified. So totally, they make up 8 schools, just as St. James qualified this one to join them.
Well, so what exactly have these students been telling you about their expectations for the national competition this year?
Indeed, they say that the sort of spotlight that the finalists, not even just the winners, the finalists, you can talk about Francisca Lamini and some of the other finalists in last year's edition got, has given them a huge boost in terms of their morale to anticipate and indeed work so hard to be able to get into the grand finale. Even if they don't win it, they know that being in the competition, they are assured of some goodies.
And that's my colleague Manuel Cranting there for today's National Science and Maths Quiz. And Program Manager for Safe Motherhood at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Chris Opoku-Fofie, has revealed that the country lacked stocks of condoms during the lockdown as a result of COVID-19. This situation led to a high demand of condoms during that period. He made this revelation at the outdoor of new condoms and contraceptives by the Society for Family Health. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Supreme Court dismisses application for review of Deputy Speaker voting case. Also, politicization of public sector, cause of falling professional standards. That and more there. We have Living Word with Pastor Mensel Tabil is up next. Please stay for it. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. Have a good afternoon.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Hello, please, am I speaking to Miss Joanna Kuma?
Yes, please.
My name is Philip and I'm calling from MTN. Someone has just sent you money and we will need you to enter your PIN number so that we can put the money in your account.
Hey,
oh, Dada, MTN will never ask you for your PIN. Never reveal your PIN to anyone under any circumstances.